Hello everybody and welcome to the Mark Gallagher Hard Stuff podcast. This is a relaunch of the original podcast where we talk about everything hard. Hard people, hard times, hard challenges, hard stories. We also have a bit of fun with it on the episodes and a bit of crack. So listen, I hope you enjoy it. Please get involved on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks. Hello everybody and happy new year, happy 2021. We're over it. 2020 has been and gone. Though I gotta be honest, it wasn't the worst year of my life. There was a lot of good came out of it. I done a lot of things and ticked a lot of boxes and conquered a lot of goals that I had. So I'm actually one of those few people that thought 2020 was a good year. But how are you? I haven't been about in a while. I haven't done a podcast. Really fell out of the way of it. I fell out of the habit of it. I was wrapped up in other things. I have been working flat out on a few ideas. And yeah, things have this has taken a back seat. But to be honest, I wanted to relaunch it. I felt towards the end of the last few episodes, it was pretty repetitive and things were very serious with it. So I wanted to make things a bit lighter and to share some stories that were more fun in comparison to what was going on, but it does still interest me. Hard people, hard stories, endurance stories. Love hearing stories. Can't get enough of stories. So that's pretty much what the new relaunch is about. Hopefully on this one I will get some friends to talk to rather than looking at my ugly mug and listening to me ramble on about whatever. But yes, hopefully it should be a bit of fun. So to kick off the fun, I thought I would chat to you all about the quotes, the mantras that I listen to, hear, repeat to myself not every day, but whenever things are getting tough. People always talk about, have a mantra, I can't do this, I can't do this, I won't stop, blah de blah de blah de blah. They work. That's the shittiest example of one that I could have possibly given you, but they do work. Here's a selection. I thought I would read out to you some of the few little quotes and little things that pop into my head whenever, I'm about running especially at the minute. Ever since Connemara, my knees have given me jip. I can run, I can do CrossFit, I can squat, I can do Olympic lifting, but anything more than say a 5 mile run, I am starting to feel it in my knees. So yeah, I do need everything and anything, every bit of fuel, every mind game, every trick I can to get me going. And these are the corniest things you'll ever hear sometimes, but they are what keep me going, and I'm a sucker for listening and reading these things. So the first one being, and this is from pretty much the patron saint of hard bastards, David Goggins. The man is an absolute savage. But this is one from his book, Can't Hurt Me. It wasn't even him that said it. It was someone talking about him to explain just how tough the guy is. But pretty much the way it goes in the book is, you're the type of guy who wishes he was a POW just to see if you had what it takes. Fuck me. Imagine that. Imagine that toughness, that hardness, that is probably the worst situation you could be in, captured behind enemy lines, and he envisages this guy just being as super tough that the challenges of this world aren't enough for him. You need to actually go to hell. That is what hell is. And sometimes I'll listen to that, doing a 5 mile run or a 10 mile run or whatever, and I go, yeah, you need to up the toughness, you need to up the hardness, and that's just one of these wee things that pop into your mind and get you going. Another one from the David Goggins book of tough stuff is, I don't know about you, but sometimes I can be out on a run, and especially if it's a looped run where I'm coming closer to my house, that all of a sudden it gets easier to quit or to cancel your mileage or change things about, just to feed into I'm closer to home means I don't have to go out the road to come back to do the miles that it's set out to do. But this is one that creeps in, and again, you have to just repeat it over and over and over and over, and it almost becomes a thorn in your side. But it's don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're done. And really, it says what it says. You can just picture it in this gravelly, hard American accent saying it to you, drill sergeant down to you. But it's one of those things, it does get you going. Or if I'm doing a WOD in the CrossFit gym and I am struggling, I feel it's a tough one, it's not a workout that you like, those are the ones you always want to draw back and not give as much, but really they're the ones that you should get stuck into. And that's something that again goes through in my mind to get you fired up, really, that you are not done until you are done. You've set yourself to work, stick to it and get it done, because you'll feel better at the end of it. What else have I got here? Hang on now. Cameron Hayes. I don't know if anybody has heard of Cameron Hayes. Cam Hayes is bow hunter, ultra runner. The guy runs a marathon every day. The amount of work that man puts into a day is superhuman. He's one of these guys, gets up, does his half marathon, say in the morning. He'll get back, he'll do bow hunting, or he'll practice with his bow for an hour. He then goes and does his normal 9 to 5 day job. Within that 9 to 5 day job, he's out running in the afternoon. He's then home. He's like repping out bench presses, like 500 reps, something ridiculous. The man is just an absolute animal. He's in his late 40s, early 50s. The man is a machine. But I mean, some of the stuff he comes off with is nobody cares, work harder. Nobody cares, work harder. That can't help but just seep into your mind and just make you feel like a pansy and just, I don't know, rip the band-aid off. Right, there's the silliness gone. Work harder. No one's gonna come and help you out. No one cares if you're getting it tough. Just get it done. Because the other one he says is they don't make statues of critics. Get it done. Get the work done. Who else have I got here? I see Muhammad Ali. You can't not have a motivational quote without Muhammad Ali. To the point where he says, I hated every minute of training, but I said don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. This one at the minute does get repeated. Probably because my little boy has a fascination with champions. I imagine he's picked it up from me, the people that I idolize and I try mimic, I suppose, in day-to-day life. But he loves it. He loves it. He'll just come in to me and say, Daddy, what champions can we talk about today? So boxing is his thing. So Rocky is probably his be-all and end-all at the moment. But there's Rocky, there's Iron Mike, and then there's Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, for whatever reason, he almost saves it for when he really, really, really needs some perking up and some motivation. But he loves it. Like if I was to quote him, Muhammad Ali, anything, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, your hands can't hit but your eyes can't see, he will literally light up. He will whip his top off in the kitchen. The Rocky music goes on, all of a sudden he's skipping, he's doing push-ups. He is on fire. But what I'm saying is, these things, they are useful tools to have. I keep them in my arsenal, in my mind, to bail me out of a hard time, to bail me out whenever things suck, things are shit, and you are feeling awful and old and decrepit, and all of a sudden you have a new point of reference, a new jab in the side or something, just to, I don't know, just get you out of that negative space, and all of a sudden you're the hardest guy in the world. So yes, fill your mind up with some motivational quotes. The internet's full of them. There's pages that just, that's all. You don't actually know who does these pages. They're just pictures of tigers mauling gazelles and just looking mean, and that's supposed to get you fired up, and it does. So use it the next time you're out and running and you need help, and just doing the body check doesn't help anymore. Get a motivational quote, get yourself fired up, get it done. So I was chatting to a boy in work the other day. Don't chat to him that often, but I was in a scenario in work where we're just side by side, and I was chatting away with him, and he was asking about some of the races. And whenever you tell someone about doing a 100-mile race that hasn't a clue that people run for 100 miles, he was like, are you mental? What is wrong with you? You know, is something lacking in your head? Which then led to the question, why on earth would you go and run for 100 miles or do an ultra marathon? And it is quite a difficult one. And I went off, obviously I talked for about 20 minutes to the guy explaining it. But the one thing I don't think I've mentioned, and it's taken me a bit of time to sort of figure it out and to now almost know what it is that you're craving, is this euphoric feeling that you get. And this is super hippy dippy stuff, but it's good stuff. And pretty much what happens is, so if you imagine you're out, you start at 6 o'clock in the morning in beautiful countryside or wherever it is you are at this race that you have set yourself a challenge, you have prepared for it, you have everything all lined up, it's game day, and you're off and you're running, and the first wee bit's all very familiar, and you're jogging along and you're talking to people, and it's lovely, and hi you Seamus, hi you Ray, oh what do you do yourself, I do this, I do that, it's lovely, you're chatting to new people and you're discovering things about people, and then about 30 miles into it you're on your own. You have your crew I suppose in your van, but they're not running with you. You have a lot of time in your own head. And I find not the early miles, because 30 miles isn't early miles. So 30 miles to 50 miles, that was a one challenge. You know, that was daylight, and it was different to every other day. So your day felt different anyway. And you're running, and you've got the physical challenges then, you know, because after 18 miles, your body's very, very depleted of the fuel that it needs. So your body and those early miles is the thing that tries to trick you first. So you get over that, and you have tools, you eat, you rest, you put rolling pins over yourself, you use what we have deemed in my circle as the love gun, which is a massage gun. You're rubbing yourself up and down with that, trying to get yourself going, but you'll manage the motor on through. The best bit about an ultra race is, so you've your physical challenge and you've overcome that, and you feel great for a while because you've overcome this physical challenge. It's like you get to a sort of a new gate, or a new level, a new platform where you had your pain, you got over your pain, you're now riding the wave of the pain, and you're on to the next bit, which is mental. And it's just a case of you then keep going. It's the drudgery. You have the negative stuff in your head, and it's all trying to get to you, and you're just using every tool you can, your motivational quotes, your mental checklist, your crew talking to you, your breaks, your chunking, you know, where you're breaking miles up into, so if you've 50 miles of the day still to go, And instead of thinking of 50 miles, you think about 5 miles. You think, right, if 5 miles gets to this plot, and then I get to rest, and 5 miles gets me to here. If I do a 7-mile stint, I'm at the checkpoint then. Little things like that break the big, massive task down. So that's your mental challenge that you're working on. But for me, the thing that I probably am craving most, and this is it's not a scary thing, but what I'm about to tell you, but it's the latter miles, the late night, total darkness, no one awake other than your crew. Sheep are looking at you going, you mad bastard, and everything's silent. You're in the twilight zone. You're in your own head. You don't even know if your body's sore anymore. It is just weird. And you're running, and you're running, and you're running, and you're running. And all of a sudden, the bushes look like people. And you're tripping, and you're going, don't look at the bushes. They're now people. And it's really, really weird. And you're running, and you're running, and you're running, and you're running. The next minute, you see Jesus. And Jesus is on the cross. And he's all lit up. And the next minute, you think Jesus is surrounded by cows. And you're hallucinating. And you are completely in another world, in a different zone. That's what happened to me in Connemara. This was a point before, this was a check, before you get to the last checkpoint, going through Roundstone. And I've never been there before. I didn't do a loop of the course beforehand, but this was the Twilight Zone mileage. And it wasn't until afterwards, my friend Jared, who was running with me for parts of it and trying to keep me right because he saw I was swaying all over the road, he was like, you were on another planet. You weren't Mark Gallagher. You weren't of this world. You were in a different place. Now, it was an awful place for part of it, but then part of it was kind of an outer body experience, and it was amazing. I can only imagine it's what people that are addicted to drugs probably search for, and I'm not saying use drugs, but if you wanted to do it in a totally legal way, is run for 24 hours or do a 100-mile race, because you feel trippy. You feel absolutely trippy within that. So that was, I think it was from mile 60 to 82 until we got to the next checkpoint, and it was sort of like 3 o'clock in the morning sort of time. You know, guard dogs were asleep. They weren't even out annoying me. The sheep were asleep and weren't even budging out of the road to get out of my path. And it was all just silent. And I just felt like I felt like, again, this is really weird. And it's the first time I've tried to articulate it and talk to someone about it. But it came into my head the other day and I was like, Jesus, that was fucking mighty crack, wasn't it? And I thought I would share it with people. But yes, it's that out of your own body experience. And my mind, it was part of my mind I've never used before. And don't get me wrong, I was probably very in danger of my body, because your body's not supposed to hallucinate and think that bits of rocks are Jesus and cows, or think that hedges are people, and don't look at them because they'll start talking to you. And it was all just mental, but what an experience, and what a story. And then the other part of doing a 100-mile race or an ultra race, which I was trying to explain to him, was once I got that checkpoint took forever. And anybody who's ran Connemara, or anybody that talks about it, you know, to get to the last checkpoint, the Roundstone part, it's fucking terrible. There was a signpost, I think about 5 miles into that leg, and it said such and such is in, Roundstone is in 10 kilometers. I think 10 kilometers took me fucking 3 hours. It was awful. Time froze still. Jesus was there. cars were there, hedges were people. It was mental. And it was in the dead of the night, and it was just crazy. It was a crazy... I can only put it down... I would imagine it's got to be something like if you're on LSD, some sort of acid or hallucinogenic drug. It was fucking wired to the moon, so it was. But got to that point, mile 82, I was another person. Anybody that knows me, I'm a friendly guy. I will talk to a hole in the wall. You know, I'll talk to anything and anyone, and I'll try bring a bit of crack to the whole thing. But there was this lady, and she was probably the most lovely lady in the world. All I know about her is she was from the Aran Islands, and I was destroyed. My body had went as far as I'd ever run before. So at this point, it was at 82 miles. To finish the race, it was all uncharted territory. And she was telling me all about life on the Aran Islands and growing up. And although that sounded lovely, at the time I was just like, are you still talking? You know, are you still talking? She was trying to convince me that about 5 miles down the road there was a beautiful beach, and I would know it when I saw it because it was so beautiful, and that I should strip bollock naked and get into the freezing cold water of the Atlantic to rejuvenate myself. And I thought, no, you're fucking mental. I am not getting into the Atlantic after doing 80 miles because I don't think I'd be able to get my clothes back on afterwards and I'd die. I didn't say that to her, but that's what I was thinking in my head. And she handed me a coffee, and it only just went worse. She probably thought she was doing the most lovely thing by telling me whereabouts I was in the race. At this point, I didn't know the full run of what had happened to the people behind me, fucking wrecking the place, people behind me in the race. But it probably was as well that I did not know, because she told me that I was the last runner. And I was like, hang on, there hasn't been that many people past me. She's like, no, you're the last runner. The only person that is behind you is the guy who's walking it. And I saw red. People talk about what other motivations you have, you know, so again, I'd used everything that I had. I'd used my mental checklist from head to toe of my body. I'd used quotes. I'd used my crew. I'd used the surroundings around me. I had rode the LSD wave of seeing Jesus. I'd pretty much done everything at this stage. The next bit, when my body hadn't been this far and I hadn't done these were the uncharted miles that I hadn't done. What got me there was pure, nasty, visceral, ugly aggression and just negative thoughts or negative horrible stuff that just got me to keep going. So once she said that, I don't even think I waited for my crew. I literally changed my top and boom, I went. I put my earphones in. It was the only time I put my earphones in. I believe at some parts of it, looking at my Strava, I was running the fastest that I had ran the whole day. At 82 miles, I then picked up the pace, and there was parts of that 18 miles where I was running sub 8 minute mile pace. And the lads in the van, they said to me afterwards, they're like, Mark, we didn't even want to say anything to you because you were in a different world. You were in a different place, and you just looked like if you could have fucking blew down walls, you would have. If it had been a barrier in front of you, you just would have flung it out of the road. They didn't even want to look at me. I just looked like I had the humpy head on, and I was bombing. They then say, so that got me so far, and then felt myself going, Jesus, I'm gonna burn out here. I'm about to burn out. And then I saw one of the guys who I was chatting to earlier on the previous day, and he had high vis stuff on. I was like, fuck, maybe. The thought only popped into my head then that although I thought I was the last runner, I thought everybody ahead of me had finished. at this point, it was the first time the thought that, hang on, there's still people running. I don't have to be last. At that point, my mind then shifted again to competitiveness. And anybody that knows me, in my younger life, whenever I was doing taekwondo, it was probably the most competitive I've ever been in my life, to the point where everything was a competition. Training was a competition. Getting there first was a competition. Being there last was a competition. Being on weight, being the fastest, the strongest. Every aspect of everyday life became a competition. I had to be competitive in every single thing, never mind when I was actually competing and fighting. That all went. That seemed to wash out, and I wasn't where I was before I started doing all the running and training and Ironman and all the rest of it. But there it was, about maybe, I think I had 8 miles to go. So we're at 92 miles, and in the darkest recesses of my mind, the competitiveness that was lying dormant all of a sudden came right to the front of my head, my focus. My dad says that whenever I saw the guy, I literally rubbed my hands and took off, picking off person by person by person by person. I ended up overtaking 7 people, and I must have demoralized them because I was fucking moving whenever I was passing them. Like, I don't mind saying so, I don't mind blowing my own trumpet. I was, for having ran the length of distance I'd ran and the amount of time, I was fucking motoring. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It re-sparked something to the point where I was fucked. I mean, I was exhausted. When I stopped, that's when the exhaustion really, really kicked in. And that's where I didn't want to finish. There was a thought of, I don't want this to end. This is amazing. It was like, the whole thing is now what I can describe as being like a drug. The most legal, cruel drug you could ever put yourself through. But yeah, that's it. I don't know if I'm embarrassed about talking about it being like a drug. Does that uncover a part of my personality that really shouldn't be uncovered? I don't care. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I think that is the addictive thing about competing. If there's something you're really, really, really good at, like CrossFit, like running, football, whenever you're at your best, or whenever you're given something far beyond what you're used to giving, and you're in that zone, you're zoned out, you're in the zone, that is drug-like. That is amazing. And I think that's what, once you get on to something, now that I know about it, once you're on to something, you just have to keep feeding it and keep feeding it and keep feeding it and keep feeding it and keep feeding it. Fuel your addiction, because once you stop, it's just far too easy to go back in the nice easy street and shoot the breeze, and yeah, your competitiveness and just all the fun of it stops. So that's why I love ultra running, is that. Yeah, pretty much that. It is amazing. And I don't know whether that would scare you to do one or whether that would encourage you to do one, but all I would say is, if you're on the fence about doing it, or anything that really puts you outside your comfort zone, that takes a lot from you, is just do it. And do it to the point where you are riding the wave. You're on the crazy drug that is passion, I suppose, or fun, or whatever, but just do it. Just do it and enjoy it. So what have I been working on for the past while? The idea, I think I chatted about it on the previous episodes of the podcast, where I wanted to start my own race series. And that has consumed my thoughts, my efforts, my time. I'm doing weird things that I never thought you would have to do when organising a race, and I'm doing things that might not even come to fruition, but I'm doing them. And yeah, it's a very, very, very different challenge to what I thought it was gonna be whenever the idea first came into my head. And it's got to the point where I'm trying to focus on that original thought of why even bother doing it, because there's plenty of races out there, plenty of races people can go and do, and I maybe haven't experienced enough of those races. But any race bar one that I have been to, there's a level of disappointment that happens. And I've treated these races that I've done as life experiences. I've not done them to win the race, and I think a lot of people that go and do these things, they do it because of the challenge, not for winning. You know, they're running against themselves. You know, the opposition, yes, it might drive them on a certain part, but it's ultimately for themselves. And there's that aspect of it, that it's a personal journey. And other races talk about it, but sure as God, they don't celebrate it at all. So pretty much a lot of races I've been to, you turn up and, you know, it's a very community feeling thing. You know, there's people, they'll welcome you, and they'll do your race briefing, and they'll give you the ideas of the course. They'll give you a bit of encouragement to start off with. But then that's kind of it. You're left to your own devices. Now, no one's going to run these races for you, and that's part of the challenge. You know, you have to go on your own 2 feet, and you have to do it. But afterwards, that celebration of what you have done, you know, the feat of what you have done is just incredible. You know, I look at some things that people celebrate in their everyday lives. You know, oh, we got the Friday, pop open the champagne, fuck off. You know, that's nothing to celebrate. You default get through the week. Not every day you go and run 100 miles, or you complete an Ironman or a half Ironman or whatever. But on that point, the half Ironman, that was the one that opened my eyes to, Jesus, this is class. So Ironman, it was Ironman Dunleary. And as an event goes, it was a half Ironman, so it was a tough challenge. And you're cycling up the Wicklow Hills, and it was tough. That the hilly part of it was tough. Not as tough as other races, don't get me wrong. There's far tougher races out there. But what was amazing about it was this feeling of celebration of these people that have trained, that have put themselves out there, and what they were going to do. You know, it was really celebrated. It was glitz and glamour. The only way it's like you paid to enter the Olympics, essentially. You turned up, and there was the athletes' village, is what it was like. You know, you went in, and there was screenings of the race briefing, and you had champions walking about the place, and you had help everywhere, and yes sir, do this, and good luck. And the atmosphere, the people that were there were wishing you all the best, and how much training you'd done, and they just wanted to encourage. On the day of it as well, just how well that was run, and how what's the word I'm looking for? How excited you felt standing on the starting line with the DJ blurring these motivational tunes, the atmosphere around the place. Like I say, I've been at done harder things, but this one, while I was standing there, it felt like a celebration of these hard people going out to do a really hard, tough challenge. And you're out on the day, and there's the banners everywhere, and there's music everywhere, and there's people encouraging you. There's the support from people giving you, what do you want? Do you want Coke? Do you want Red Bull? Do you want water? Do you want an orange? Do you want a banana? And there's just, they're just doing whatever they can do to keep you going and to keep you in the zone. And throughout the day, you're getting updates and reports, and it's this, you're involved in the whole thing throughout the day. You're getting all this information and you're going, wow, blah, blah, blah. You keep going, do this, do that. And then you come to the end of it and you run up the red carpet. They have rolled out the red carpet to celebrate the achievement that you have just done. And there's fireworks and there's people greeting you and high-fiving you and hugging you and lining the streets celebrating what you have done. You then go out and it's like, well done, big lad. There's a load of pizza, there's a t-shirt, there's the most class medal, wear it with pride, hang about, stay for the atmosphere and watch your other Iron Men and women cross that line and celebrate your day. Well done. And you're involved in this atmosphere, and the whole town is changed or turned around where there's people congratulating you and there's food and there's atmosphere and there's fun. And I left that feeling, fuck, this is class. This is amazing. I want more of it. And like I say, I've done other races, and that's maybe the one disappointing thing. So I hands down say an ultra marathon is a tougher challenge even than a full Ironman. It just demands everything you've got. So very, very, very fit people go and do Ironman and Iron Woman. But you're out there for 12, 15, 16, 18 hours. I think 18 hours is cut off with an Ironman. And you're out there and you're doing the hard challenge and you're super fit. You're super, super fit doing an Ironman. You're maybe not necessarily, well, sure, some people are doing ultramarathon. Ironman, sorry, I'm really making a dog's dinner of this, but an Ironman demands physical fitness. There's no getting around it. You're not physically fit, you're not finishing. The ultramarathon demands everything. It demands physical fitness. You have to be physically fit to get to points within a cutoff, the cutoffs, checkpoints. You need to be mentally tough because it is a mental challenge to keep going, to be in agony halfway through the race and having another 50 miles or whatever it is you've signed up for to go. And then you've always the spiritual side of it where you're awakening something inside you. But when you get to the end, there's maybe a couple of people there, and yes, they're giving you applause and saying well done. You get your medal and that's it. You're on your own. You're away. You've just ran 100 miles, or you've just ran for 24 hours, or you've just climbed a mountain 4 times, and you're away, and you're gone. And I think there's something missing, and that is the thing I want to bring to ultra running, is that celebration of people's toughness, people's indomitable spirit, people's hardness or the hardship they've went through. And this is almost a new beginning, a new chapter, and a pat on the back and saying, you are hard, you are tough, you can do anything from this point. Well done to you, well done. Let's celebrate, let's bask in the achievement you have just done. You're a hero, you're amazing, you're class. That, I think, isn't done in ultra running. Maybe I'm going against the grain. Maybe the ultra running community thinks that's a load of bollocks, you don't do it for that. I think there's something in it. I think people need a reward for doing hard things. And yeah, that I think is where the energy is coming from, or the focus to get one race, multiple races, challenges. I'm not even limiting it to ultra running. I'm trying to think about hard things that different communities, different athletic communities can do but something that is grueling. Like, there has to be the thing about a hard challenge. And it's the guy, I think, that does the Lazarus Lake, that does the Berkeley Marathon and the Big Dog backyard ultra run. He says in order for it to be a challenge, there has to be a chance of failure. It's not a challenge if there isn't the possibility that you might fail. So for you to get through, there's so much you have to work through to get to the end of this. That should be celebrated. It's not celebrated enough. Hard work isn't celebrated enough. And I think that's what I really want to celebrate. And that's the reason why I want to bring the opportunity for people to do these races, to see the crazy side of things that I am seeing and experiencing and loving. And enough said. Hard things, hard races. Yeah, looking forward to it and getting stuck into it, and just need to make it happen. So listen, thank you very much for tuning in to listen to this episode of the Mark Gallagher Hard Stuff podcast. I love doing this. Stuff I love talking about. Hopefully you can hear that in my voice, that I'm all about this and I love it. What I want most out of this podcast is to create a community of hard people, hard men and women, telling stories and celebrating their hard stories, their challenges, their toughness. It's not celebrated enough, and that's what we want through this podcast and through the races we're organising, and just through everything, just living it. But listen, if you've enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Mark Gallagher Hard Stuff podcast, and like us on Instagram and on Facebook at Hard Races. And yes, I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and I hope you tune in for the next one. All the best. Bye.